Hello there and welcome back. This is the first of our videos on the phonology of Avestan. In this video, I will mainly try to illustrate why it is not a trivial task to describe the phonological system of Avestan in the first place. After setting the problem, I will show you the steps which need to be taken in order to restore the shape of Avestan to a state which allows a phonological analysis. Based on this, I will provide you with a tentative phonological inventory, followed by a brief illustration of allophone alternations. For the sake of this video, I will entirely restrict myself to Old Avestan. In order to establish an inventory of the phonemes of Avestan, or Old Avestan in this case, one first needs to restore the transmitted text to its presumed original shape at the time of its composition. This involves reverting all subsequent phonetic changes and reductional changes that entered the text in course of its long and entangled transmission history. To a certain extent, such a restoration is based on the picture we have of Proto-Iranian and Proto-Indo-Iranian, as established through the comparison of Avestan with Old Persian and Vedic. Let us take one stanza from the Old Avestan Gathas as a sample text, to illustrate the differences between Avestan as it is transmitted and Avestan as it might have looked like perhaps 3000 years ago. The example is Yujam aibio ahura augodata ashar shathrimcha avat vohumanangha ya hushetish ramon chadat azimchit ahya mazda thwam menhi paurbim vaidem. A translation runs like this: You, O Ahura Mazda, give strength to them, and that power through Asha, true order, by which one will establish good dwellings and peace through good thinking. I in particular, O Mazda, have realized that you are the best provider of this. To derive a phonemic interpretation of the text from the phonetic shape in which it appears in the oldest manuscripts, the following steps need to be taken, amongst others. First, we need to remove a number of allophonic alternations which are regularly present in the transmitted text. These include the alternation between A and nasalized O. The nasalized O only appears in front of nasal consonants. So instead of Ramoncha, we would get Ramamcha in a phonemic transcription. Likewise, short A alternates with a schwa in front of nasals, which we can remove. So from Vaidam, we get to Vaidam in the phonemic transcription. And the glide v alternates with the fricative v after the fricative th. If we remove this alternation, we arrive at a transcription thwam for transmitted thwam. At an early point during the transmission of the Old Avestan texts, all word final vowels were systematically lengthened. To arrive at a more original version of the text, we need to restore the original quantity of word final vowels, which is in most cases easily possible with the help of Vedic. For instance, the second plural ending Old Avestan ta corresponds to a Vedic second plural ending ta in the form data, and this Vedic correspondence allows us to restore the original Old Avestan form as data with short final a. Similarly, the long final e in the form menhi from the verb to think can also be regarded as secondary because the corresponding ending in Vedic is a short e. So from transmitted Old Avestan menhi, we can deduce a phonemic transcription manhi. Now, a genuine sound change which also entered the text only in course of their transmission is epenthesis, more precisely E epenthesis and U epenthesis. I will only speak about E epenthesis here. E epenthesis is the result of palatalization of certain consonants following E, and Y, which later resulted in the rise of new diphthongs. An example is the first diphthong, the diphthong in the form gaidi, imperative form of to come, for original gadi, and two further examples from the text we actually looked at previously, aibio for earlier aibiach and hushetish for earlier hushitish. There are a number of further sound changes which entered the Old Avestan text after their composition. Only some of these are listed on the slide here. First, an H sound between two A or two A vowels developed an uvular nasal, so that original aha came to be pronounced angha. And if we revert this, we can transcribe a form such as manangha as manaha. If a sequence of R and T was preceded by the accent in Old Avestan and Young Avestan alike, by the way, the sequence RT developed to sh. Thus, original arta gives asha in the transmitted Avestan text. In Old Persian, the older form is still attested. Also, in the transmitted text, we find the effects of an umlaut, in course of which a developed to o under the influence of a following u sound. Thus, original vahu turns up as vohu in the Avesta as it is transmitted. Again, in Old Persian, the older vocalism of the word is preserved. There we have vahu, good, spelled wow. And finally, word final sequence ah, or an original Old Avestan word final sequence ah is always changed to o, or as an alternative also in Old Avestan. And this is probably the result of a reductional intervention in the Avestan text after their composition. Old Avestan regularly shows reflexes of one or several sounds which need to be reconstructed for Proto-Indo-Iranian and Proto-Indo-European, the so-called laryngals. They are not written in the transmitted text, but apparent irregularities in the meter of the gathas allow us to conclude that some reflex of the laryngals, perhaps a glottal stop, still must have been present at the time when the texts were composed. So let's look at one example here. This is taken from a part of the gathas which is composed in lines consisting of 7 plus 9 syllables. However, if we read this, if we read the line Avat Vohu Manangha Yahu Shetish Raman Chadat, we observe that the second part of the line consists of 8 instead of the usual 9 syllables. And there's actually a very good reason for that, because if we go into the etymology of the verb form dat, it becomes clear that the long vowel a here must go back to a sequence of 2 short vowels a, separated by a former laryngeal, and because the form is the subjunctive, represents a subjunctive form of the derived from the root da, which at an earlier point ended in an laryngeal. And now it seems that this laryngeal was still there at the time the Old Avestan texts were composed, or at least some sort of reflex of it, maybe, as I said, a glottal stop. So the restored version of this line would go perhaps like this: Avat vahu manangha ya hushitish ramam chadaat. Having applied these and some further changes to the text, it now suddenly reads like this: Yujam aibiach ahura augah data arta shachramcha avad vahu manaha ya hushitish ramamcha da'at azamchit ahya mazda thuam mani paurviam vaidam. Based on such a reconstruction of the original Old Avestan text, we may tentatively posit an inventory of Old Avestan phonemes. Old Avestan certainly possessed the vowels I, A, U, and U, as well as the diphthongs I and I, Au, and Au. The consonant phonemes of Old Avestan are listed in this table here, with allophones appearing in brackets. So we get the stops P, B, T, D, K, G, and perhaps a glottal stop E, the fricatives F with allophone V, Th, allophone Th, S, Z, Sh, J, Ch, allophone R, the affricates Ch and J, the nasals M and N, the liquid R with a vocalic variant R, and the glides W and Y. By the way, I should note that the allophones here in this table are not necessarily allophones of the sounds beside which they appear in the table. As we have seen, the voiced fricatives V, The, and R are not phonemic. V is an allophone of the glide W after the fricative Th, as in Thwam. The occurs as an allophone of Th after Ch, and also after F. An example is Uchtha, utterance. R appears when G comes to stand in front of a voiced Z, as in the form Aurja, from underlying Augza. Note also that R was probably preceded by a prop vowel when forming the nucleus of a syllable. Finally, it should be noted that, according to some, the glides Y and W too may be regarded as allophones of the vowels I, U, when not forming a syllable nucleus. This concludes our brief survey on the phonology of Avestan. My colleague Almut Hintze will tell you more about the phonetics and the dialectal features of the Avestan texts. I thank you for watching and say goodbye.